You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by footballstadiumprints.com. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped! Yes! And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is goal!
Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. Is Hutton now on the offense with the left foot.
Goal!
And it is now 2-0 Minneapolis City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City SC. As always, I am your host, Nate, joined by Minneapolis City Associate Sporting Director John Bisworm. John, we are here at the cusp of the 2024 season in the final throes of preparation across the club. And honestly, dude, I forgot how busy this time of year is. Especially this year as we're all leveling up and we're adding a team and we're adding responsibilities, but it's a good kind of busy. So I'm really excited, man.
The nice part is it's a kind of busy that we're used to. We're just not used to it every year when it starts to happen.
Yeah.
We're like, oh crap, we have all this stuff to do. But I agree with you. There's a lot to
like,
get
oh,
done.
now I have a third job.
Right, exactly. Yeah, on top of the other three that I have. Awesome. But no, I hear you. I think we're in a good spot. It's just kind of crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and then, as you know, we just do it live. We'll figure it out on the go if we forgot something. But we got a great show tonight, starting with the big event coming up this weekend, the season opener for the Futures U19 team, the newest team to the Murder.
Yeah,
we'll talk about the matchup, some of the players who might be featuring for the Mini Murder, and other teams they'll be facing throughout the summer, and then we'll be surprising Nate with a grab bag of some of today's biggest topics from around soccer. I personally have written down 5 of them. Nate will select 1 or 2, maybe 3, maybe 5. We don't know yet.
We'll see how much time we have.
And we'll just have an open soccer dialogue. And I just want to let the listeners know this is because of technical equipment issues that we are not able to have a complete full show. So why not just have a good old fashioned grab bag?
Improv. I love it.
Improv. All right.
Let's get grabby.
Yeah, handsy.
Well, it almost snuck up on us. It's May 1st. Holy crap. But the season is just days away. The brand new Futures U19 team is about to fly for the first time this coming Sunday against a familiar foe, Joy Athletic. John, before we get into the details of it all, talk a little bit about the new UPSL Division 1 and the decision to add a team at that level. Because we've been playing in the UPSL Premier Division for a couple, 3-4 years now. And so what's up with Division 1 and why throw the Futures into that mix?
Well, let's just talk a little bit at the highest level first, which is at the UPSL level. I think it's fantastic what they're doing, not only just adding in the second division here, but what they've just been doing to create more of a competitive atmosphere in that Premier Division. I think it's gotten better year over year. We've talked about it, where they're trending up and the NPSL is trending down. So really liking what the UPSL is doing there. As far as adding a team to it, makes total sense, right? We found that, given our mission, which always is make Minnesota soccer better, that you can only have so many guys on one UPSL roster. And with the Futures program evolving into being kind of twofold, with having an older group and a new younger group, we're just leaving the opportunity on the table if we don't create a second team, in my opinion. And with this new division, it makes absolute sense that you're getting 17, 18, 19-year-olds, maybe 16-year-olds in some instances, the exposure to adult soccer that much quicker, which will ultimately make them a better soccer player in theory. They still have to work for it, but it exposes them to what they will see when they get out of youth soccer. it's a exposure by fire in all facets because you don't know what to expect at a higher level of soccer until you're absolutely in it. And I think that age group, I was thrust into that when I was younger, and it made me 100% a better soccer player.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, a lot of these guys play already at a high level, some of them, you know, but even just when you think about what it's going to mean when they go back to high school,
Right.
like all
It'll
of a
seem
sudden,
easy.
it's going to seem easy. And all of a sudden, like, how's this going to, I wonder how this is going to affect the Minnesota high school environment when you think about, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but when you think about where all these guys go to school, like it's some of the top high schools, some of the top high school programs, and it's just going to keep separating, you know, the oil from the water. So that'd be pretty great. So starting on Sunday, John, the Futures are going to play a tidy 10-game schedule over the course of the season, from now until the end of June, culminating in a playoff format similar to the one that we've seen play out with the U21 team. It doesn't make any sense to me, but we win, so that's okay. It's the UPSL Division 1 is a great mix of teams like us that are fielding like a younger squad in their organization, but there's also some regional mainstays that are upping their game and dipping into something a little bit more organized. And there are brand new teams looking to carve out a space in local lower league soccer. So teams that might sound familiar to listeners that we're going to be going up against is Joy Athletic. I already mentioned them. Vlora FC2, so they've got a second team. Superior City FC2, they've got a second team. Both of those teams already play in the UPSL Premier Division. And then there's Rochester FC2, who are fielding a team at this level, in addition to their USL2 team. Those are all new offshoots of their parent clubs. We're also going to see Eau Claire's Bateau FC. They've been doing their thing out there for a number of years on the amateur level, and now it's nice to see them stepping up and joining the, you know, kind of
the regional ranks.
The regional ranks, exactly. Yep. And Skills FC joins the mix. I've seen I got Skills team for a number of years in like the futsal circuit. I've seen a truck show up at a few tournaments here and there, but they will be led by former Crow Jacob Popkin, because that is his dad's business, Skills FC. So that'll be interesting to see. And then we've got club teams like Manitou. We've got Shakopee. Those guys adding teams at this level, looking to provide a spot for their older players on the competitive stage. And then we've got brand new teams, South St. Paul's Dakota SC, and St. Paul United, who, by the way, have been picked as preseason favorites by the coaches poll. John, what are your thoughts on this roster of teams? A lot of difference here, from established teams to some brand new faces.
Yeah, you left me a lot to unpack there. Let's start with the established teams first. Actually, no. Let's start with the new teams coming in. The Bateaus and the teams that are kind of extensions of youth soccer.
Yeah,
I think that from a perspective of those teams, this is going to be wildly different than what they expect.
Yep.
It truly is. It's adult soccer. And I don't know if there's the depth in a talent pool to separate dads who are still somewhat decent at soccer that are probably going to maybe pop up on some of these rosters versus the best of their youth players. So I think there's going to be a wild mix in for the clubs that are new to this. Bateau aside, I think they're going to probably lean heavier as an older team because that's what their makeup is.
Yep.
Where then you're going to have a bunch of youth players. So it's going to be a little bit different there. But for the teams that are established youth clubs, like, are they just going to roll out like an under 18 team? Maybe they are. That's totally cool. But I would have to assume that there's going to be a mix of some older players. And how does that mixture work? The other thing too for these newer teams is it's different. Like, Are you going to be like a men's league team in the true fashion where like maybe 9 guys show up, or are you going to be like a youth team where all 22 show up or all 20 show up that you're allowed to have on a game day roster?
Yep.
So I think there could be a situation, especially when you get into the dog days of summer, when people start to not care because they're not doing as well, that you might run into potential forfeitures or some situations where there just aren't enough players to field a full side. So that could happen.
It's the magic of the lower leagues.
It really is. And, you also have to level up from an experience perspective. You gotta, have more than just the person sitting at a table taking tickets. If you're selling tickets, you need to have, all of the requirements met. So there might be some situations where we roll in with our usual expectation to some of these locations, and the situation is not what we expect it to be. And there's nothing we can do about that other than just forget about it and go play soccer.
Yeah.
Now shifting over to, the teams that we have heard of, the Valoras, the Joy Athletics, Superior City, Rochester FC2. I think you're going to see that's where the guts of the competition is going to be for Minneapolis City. And when I say competition, I mean from not only just a playing perspective, but also from a requirements and club perspective, because they know exactly what a game day experience looks like. They know exactly what it takes to be successful in an adult pre-professional situation. So you're going to see the game day experience. You're going to see full rosters. You're going to see prepared teams that are clearly training, that have focus. They'll be putting the effort into those. And I'm not saying that the other youth clubs won't have this. I hope they all have it. I'm just saying there's two differences of opinion here. There's people who have done this before other places and people who are trying to do it for the first time. So there may be some bumps in the road that have to be ironed out across the division until maybe next season when people are getting used to it.
Yeah, and I mean we've experienced the same thing, right? Like we know the bumps happen even if you plan for plan to smooth them out. So I think you're right, John, and I'll talk about this in a second, but I think that like really the clubs to keep an eye on are the ones that are established, that have been doing this already at an organized level in the UPSL or the USL2 or the NPSL. And I think it might be one of those years where we're just going to see who can figure it out and who's gonna stumble.
Yep.
I think you made a great point on like you don't really know who's going to be on these rosters. If you go to division1.upsl.com, you can take a look at who is on the rosters of some of these teams. I would say some are more complete than others. You can take a look at the full city roster. Right now, there's about 30 guys on it. So realistically, you and I aren't going to be able to give a full profile of each of them. But I want to break it down for the listeners, at least at a high level. First, the roster is that big because we're dealing with young men who are already playing at a high level with their club teams. More on that in a second. And of course, plans are going to need to be made for them to be away at national playoffs, national championships, if all goes well. Additionally, you've got summer vacations, family trips, college visits. These are 16, 17, 18-year-old guys, right? So Coach Scotty wants to make sure that he's going to be covered during already a tough time to maintain consistency, right?
We actually just had a coach's call yesterday to talk about this. So
oh, wow. All right.
Here. So the number one thing that I'm seeing from Coach Scotty is depth.
Yep.
And you see that with the volume of players on the roster, but you also see it with the position segmentation, I guess you could say, of the players. So there is coverage. The other thing to think about, and we have already started to think about this, is who from maybe the second tier of Coach Josh Roy's 21 team that is age eligible, or maybe isn't necessarily going to garner more than a decent share of playing time being in his second tier on his roster. Which one of those players can we identify and have that conversation with them today to tell them, like, you will also see minutes on the 19s.
Okay.
And then how that cascades down from the USL2 team to the U21 team and even some of the 19s as well. You're going to see some crossover, and it's not the crossover that you would see from some other folks that will remain nameless that are clearly putting in their top players when they come to play against us. In our situation, it's truly a coverage situation, and you're not going to have one game where you're going to drop down a whole bunch of quality U21 players just to win a game. It's going to be to make sure that we, like I mentioned before in your last question, are fielding a full team to compete. And so there, I think number one, it's coverage, because like you mentioned, it's summer, there's things going on. There's also these players in this age group that are on a very successful team, which we'll talk about here in a second, that have aspirations to win a club national championship. So we have to be mindful of that. We've already started those conversations.
Nice. So who makes up this Futures U19 team right now? And chances are we're going to have mostly some brand new names for you all to learn. And that's actually really fun. But they come from some of local soccer's highest rated club and high school teams. Just taking a look down the list of the 29 guys, you've got a contingent of guys from MTA, anywhere between the 05-06 level down to even the 08 level. That include 8 members of the 07 ECNL team that is currently number 1 in the country. And these guys include Minnetonka's Hudson Benitez and Woodbury's Elijah Fearing, who, by the way, you can go back and listen to as I interviewed them for episode 247. So go back a few episodes and listen to Huddy and Elijah speak along with Dylan Ellers. It was a great interview when I caught them after U21 training. Besides them, we've got representatives from playoff high school teams. You've got state champion Wyzetta represented with Charlie Pillar, Miles Redmond, Miles Ulrich. We've already mentioned Elijah from state semi and quarterfinalist Woodbury. He'll be joined by Olin Francois and Eddie Puglisi. Their strong section rivals at Stillwater will be represented by Colin Vilm, who is just an exceptional midfielder, really good on the ball. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see him play. You've got state tournament mainstays Maple Grove represented by Ike Duell and Owen Bersham. You've got De La Salle represented by Ethan Lemoyne. Like, it is truly a who's who of some of the best high school and club programs in the state playing at this level. And there's more. There's 29. There's 29 of them currently. Like I said, we can't cover off on all of them. John, what in your mind was Scotty looking to focus on as he built this roster from futures participants and beyond, besides just making sure he can ensure depth and coverage over the season?
Best players potentially available. That's truly it.
Easy. Yeah,
easy. And like, all joking aside, that truly is it. Who are the strongest players that have come through the winter session, and who are the ones that did not come through the winter session that can be identified?
Yep.
So like you said, we talked about depth. That's number one. Number 1B, I guess you could say, 1A being strong soccer players. But as you're going through kind of the who's who at a high level, one of the common themes that I hear is our model is set up perfectly. It's going to the high schools, going to the top clubs and saying, look, we're not trying to redo what you're currently doing. What we're trying to do is create an atmosphere that is supplemental to what you already provide and is flexible for the player, but is serious enough from a dedication perspective that will help them in their soccer journey and make them better as players, but also your program's better and soccer as a whole in Minnesota. I sound like a broken record, but it truly is that. I mean, when you're talking about the names that you put down on here, and we've left off quite a few that are that are equally as good as these guys, and it's really exciting because Scotty has an opportunity now as a coach within our club to truly start the foundation of future success for the first team. And it starts with getting the best players in, creating a solid environment that's supplemental, and give them that taste of adult soccer early. So I don't want to keep sounding like a broken record, so I'll just stop there.
No, and I think you kind of started to answer my next question too, that we know the expectation for Minneapolis City players is always to win, but given this team is mostly high school juniors, mostly high school seniors, the other objective that you might have down for Coach Heinen is this is foundational to the Minneapolis City system, right? This is getting these guys in at an early stage and asking them to level their game up for the future by playing against older players and potentially better players, right?
Yeah, that's I think number 2 on the list for Coach Heinen, like the true number 2, not 1C. Number 2 is quickly get them to adapt to a different type of soccer, and that's bigger, faster, stronger opponents.
Yep.
So and Scotty has played in both the UPSL and the USL too. So he and NPSL.
Yep.
So he understands what it is from a player's perspective, and I think it's the best possible coach you could have. And specifically, his demeanor being very laid back and very pragmatic when he has coaching points, when he is interjecting into a teaching role. He's been there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be in the club environment, and you can, as a parent or as a player, and look at, your coach played 25 years ago in, lower level professional soccer in XYZ location. That's great and all because they've been there before, but having someone who's closer in age, who literally is an hour before he is coaching, playing in the highest level we have at our club, that's super cool. And it's really effective for helping that transition from youth club soccer into pre-professional soccer.
Yeah. And we see there are going to be those moments, and you've seen them in players. Scotty has probably experienced this moment personally when they're out there and it's the first 5 minutes of the game and they are already like exhaling heavily through their, and just being like, oh shit, I got to figure this out and figure it out fast. Because we see Rochester's got a second team, and I'm looking at that roster, and there's, what's his name? And there's Midat Mujic on the roster. They've got guys that have they've got guys probably from the old Med City team on this roster. They got 46 guys rostered, so who knows who's actually going to show up. Skills FC could be good, right? Popkin is a pro player who he alone could probably dominate games at this level. St. Paul United picked number 1 because they've got a really strong mix of it looks like Karen and Hmong players. I just think that like there are going to be those moments, and that's going to be super important for Scotty to be able to coach and mentor these guys through these moments where they have to figure out, okay, how do we adjust our game? How do you meet the challenge? And how do you push through this? Because I think that it's going to be very different this year for the U19s than it was or has been in the past for the U21s.
Yeah. I have one point to interject before you continue.
Yeah.
I think at this level, not knowing what these second teams from these established clubs is going to look like, the number one thing that I see that can contribute to success is having a total plan from a playing perspective. So you look at a team like Skills FC. Yes, they might have a Jacob Popkin who single-handedly could dictate a game at this level. I know he could. I've seen him play multiple times.
Yep.
He absolutely could. But it's what happens with the rest of the players on that field. Are they just going to be reactionary, or do they actually have a playing style and a systematic plan on the field? That's where I see Minneapolis City having a different approach. Like, this team is being built, and it's a lot tougher for one extremely talented player to overcome, 11 guys that are in sync.
Sure.
And guys that come off the bench. So I think that's where I mentioned earlier on in your first question was the mix of this is going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, because it's not like you're just lifting and shifting the best youth players from all over the state of Minnesota and putting them into a division together. That's already happening somewhere else. This is going to be totally different.
Mm-hmm. And like, given the pro-rel nature of the UPSL and the two divisions between Premier and Division 1, some of these new teams were probably placed at this level because they need to earn that move up, right, to Premier. Rochester FC couldn't just join UPSL Premier because that was full.
Yeah.
And I actually think so, because of that, I actually think this year is going to be an interesting like sorting of the teams in Division 1, and very different from the Futures U21 season. I think competitively we can expect a few surprises, but I would not be surprised if by the end of the season we see Rochester making the move up. There's not really enough info out there to make a real prediction. Like you said, you don't really know what some of these new teams are going to bring, or how some of these established teams are going to approach roster building. But that's my feeling. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm with you there. I think this is definitely going to be a feeling out process of what this division actually is. It's the first year of it. You know, we saw all sorts of weird shit happen in the first year of the UPSL with us. You know, you never know what's going to be around the next corner for you to bump your shit into. So, I think that it's far too early for anyone to put down on paper who they think is going to win this division, or even the U21 division in that right. In my opinion, I think you're going to have to wait to see what it looks like. And we start this weekend.
That's right.
Strap in, baby.
Opening game of the UPSL Division 1 season is this Sunday, 7 p.m. at Edor Nelson Field. We call it the Nelly for the low price of $3.99. These games for the U19 are free of charge. So come on out and support the boys. If all goes according to plan, these are the kids that we will see hit the field in 2 to 3 years and beyond for the Crows. So you got to come out and support the newest members of the Murder and really show them what it means to play for Minneapolis City, because I think a lot of these guys will be pleasantly surprised when they see supporters and people actually cheering for them at these games.
And there's no other Minneapolis City soccer happening for a bit.
This is it.
You literally have no excuse.
Yep. This is the practice run for the big season. If you want to come out and get your cheers and your chants warmed up, this is the perfect opportunity for it.
100%. Well, that's enough for that, Nate.
Yeah.
Let's get into our little soccer grab bag here. So we talked about the lead up in the beginning of the show. I have picked 5 topics. One of the topics, if you do choose it, is from our listener and club back of the house member Paul Schmeckel. So there's a Paul question in here.
I like it.
So here's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna get at least 2 topics in. We'll try to get in more, but I'm gonna have you pick a number between 1 and 5, and then I'm gonna give you a little bit of an intro of what the topic is, and then I'm gonna let you go, and then I'm gonna go. How's that sound?
That sounds great. All right.
All right. So 1 through 5.
I choose number 3, right in the middle.
Number 3 is, what are your thoughts on the fact that something from old school soccer is starting to pop up in the professional ranks, at least in Europe, specifically with Bayer Leverkusen? And that topic, Nate, is the traditional sweeper.
So I think it's the traditional sweeper. I think it's interesting, and I think that it is potentially an outgrowth of 2 things. First is the rise of the sweeper keeper and how that has, changed tactics up a little bit, but also I'd say the lack of goalkeepers that have the ability to actually play at sweeper keeper. Right. I think you found that building out of the back and maintaining possession is definitely in vogue right now. And I don't know. I just feel like not everyone can do it right. So it makes total sense to just throw a center back there that's better on their feet and can help sweep things up. Now, it's worked really well for Leverkusen, right? Still never losing. I think this is probably the week. This is the biggest test here coming up in the next couple of weeks as they advance in the Euros and they wrap up their Bundesliga season. But man, I think it's worked really well. What do you think, John? I mean, I was never a soccer fan that got to see a true sweeper in action. It's definitely been something that is like mostly on like the amateur and rec fields that I've been able to see. Like, this is just a guy we keep back there to clean up.
Well, I really appreciate that Never Losing Leverkusen helped us with this topic here, because I was watching one of their games back this weekend and I was like, I got to put that on my list. I did play in the sweeper stopper system. I was the stopper. So for people who don't understand what this is, we'll do a little bit of a history lesson here. Basically, the modern game is 2 center backs, a right and a left center back, that play evenly next to each other. And the sweeper stopper system was inverting them so that there is one true last defender that is a player who doesn't mark anyone unless they have to. And then they basically just go end line to end line, cleaning things up and supporting the stopper, who is essentially the last central defender that does mark a man. So my take on it is I think what they did at Leverkusen was perfect. Here's why. The stopper position actually is I probably should have put down here sweeper stopper, not just sweeper. But the stopper position is a crucial one in today's modern game if you do switch to this system, because how many teams actually deploy more than one central striker? Like pretty much none, right?
None, no more. Yep.
No more. So you have one target person who you have to account for. And what the sweeper stopper system does is it takes the guesswork out of who's marking that central striker. Because how many times have I talked about like what's the easiest way for you to free up as a central striker? It's movement, and confusing the center backs on who should be tracking you and picking you up. Who's going to be matching you step for step on a run into a channel. Well, with the sweeper stopper system, there's no guessing. There's one person who's in charge of the number 9. Yep. And that's the stopper. And then the sweeper is there to clean things up. I truly believe that, the sports in general is just a consistent copycat, whether it's professional, amateur, whatever, college, whatever's working, everyone does it. Mm-hmm. And then they only evolve. And then someone's like, oh my God, this person's this like great sports mind because they evolved out of what everyone's currently doing into something that stops it. Well, look what Leverkusen did. They brought back the old sweeper stopper system and they bottled up pretty much every number 9, including Mr. Harry Kane, who's scoring goals for fun in Germany, even though I don't think he should have gone there. But that's another conversation. So I think that it should come back more because it takes the guesswork out of it, and you always have an outlet. And then if you do have a sweeper keeper, then you essentially have your sweeper and your keeper as 2 further defenders that can support. Yep. If you want to build out from the back. So I think it's great. I welcome it, not just because I played in that type of system in my heyday, but I welcome it. So
I like it a lot. And you look at, like you said, it is sort of like everyone copies everyone else, but it takes what Pep and to another extent like Arteta have been doing and takes it to the next level, where like Pep, Mikel Arteta, they're playing basically 4 center backs, and they're saying, okay, who are the center backs that we can trust down the wing so that we can free up more people to join the attack? Who's the Ben White? Who's the Kiwior that we can trust? Who's
Guardiola?
Same thing. Guardiola. And it's like, I guess what the sweeper keeper or the sweeper stopper system does instead is it's just like, we don't even have to worry about finding who the defender is that can adapt to that forward role. It's just like, we're going to throw Grimaldo out there. We're going to throw Frimpong out there, and they're going to be on the attack.
Yep.
Exactly. It's worked wonders for both those players, but also obviously for the team. So it's just, I just love seeing the way that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to affect soccer philosophy in the next couple of years, and hopefully we'll see more of it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, topic 1.
That was good. That was a good topic.
All right. Now you have 1, 2, 4, or 5.
I'm going to go with lucky number 1.
Lucky number 1. Well, lucky Paul. This is Paul's question. So Paul basically says, what do you think of Pro Rel that is being tried in the UPSL? Could they expand it? Could they be onto something? Do you see this as something that other leagues might try? I don't believe the MLS will ever embrace Pro Rel at a very high level, and he used the $ for S in MLS. Very clever, Paul. And do you believe that it could ever be possible for Pro Rel structure to exist in the U.S. at a professional club level? I'm going to basically take your last part of that question, Paul, with will it ever be in the United States soccer at a professional club level? I'm just going to cut that off because that in itself is a topic for a whole show. But Nate, what do you think of it in the UPSL, and could we see other leagues maybe expanding into this?
We'll see. I think I'm interested to see how it turns out in the UPSL. I think it's probably for the betterment of the league when you think about how big we have found the UPSL to be. And there are some teams like we found from Long Island or California that are really solid teams, or like the Wichita, like the teams that are technically in academy systems of like some clubs, we've found them to be really solid. So I'm interested to see how the Pro Rel overall affects the talent level of UPSL Premier, of the Premier level of that. I think it's just going to get better and better, right? As some of these clubs that are kind of just like half-assing it or don't have their shit together end up down in Division 1, and that'll be fine. But I think, you know, the rising tide will end up lifting all boats, and I think it's going to work out better for the UPSL, who have already shown themselves to be a solid organization that has some benefits above and beyond other leagues that Minneapolis City have played in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I think it's going to be positive. I don't know. I think, will it, you know, to the next part of his question, is this something we will see other leagues adopt? I question whether or not other leagues have the ability to do so. And I'm thinking about the NPSL. I'm thinking about NISA, right? And as you get higher and higher up the pyramid, I think with the NPSL, I just don't think they have enough teams, right, to be able to do that. Or even if they did, I don't think they've got teams that would be willing to be like, okay, we'll go down. I mean, what does that mean, right? No way they would. NISA, not enough teams, right? So I think the UPSL is in a unique position where they've got the volume of teams across the country to be able to try this experiment, and I'm interested to see how it turns out.
Sure, I agree with everything you just said. I'm gonna throw something else in here.
I love when you do that.
I think I know you do. Here's what I think. I believe that the UPSL is onto something, and what I mean by that is that the UPSL has figured out how to bring the Pro Rel conversation into their league in a vacuum and to test it out. And then if the test does work, where you truly see the excitement that Pro Rel offers in other countries, then what you can do is you can shop your idea around to people like USL, people like NISA, obviously not anyone like MLS, but you can shop it around and you can say, look, here's what we can do. We've already figured out that at this pre-professional level, it works. So then what's the next step? Well, if I'm USL2, I look at it this way. Maybe it's a coupling of a couple different things into the model. And it's basically taking the creation of what the Midwest Premier League is doing and what the state leagues are doing across the country. And you start to then create your pyramid where the UPSL Midwest West Division is pretty much all Minnesota-based teams, right? So you create your state league, and then the winner of your state league then moves into the next level, which is the regional league, which is you're facing off against teams from Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakotas, and you keep it very, very like regionalized for travel purposes. Then the next division on top of that is more of a broader regional league. And these are all things you're seeing that are in the system over in the UK, where you have your lower level state team, your lower level regional team, your premier regional team, and then you get into your national level.
Sure.
And then at the national level, then you start to look at competition wise. Do I think ever that a team if this structure would work, say the USL adopts it, that a team from South Dakota who wins their state league and then ultimately gets into the mix to be in a regional league, maybe wins that. Do I think that from the regional perspective, that team has the funding, the operations, the whole can of worms to actually become a professional level team? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that there isn't someone out there in the region who can do it and is the gold standard that moves their way all the way up and becomes a full professional side. But I think then what the USL could do is USL2 is the cap, where it's state, regional, national, USL2. Then you can keep your age restrictions. You can maybe lessen them a little bit and have maybe 50% of your roster has to be under 26, and then 50% of your roster can be above 26 to accommodate to keep your process of trying to make it more of a true college summer type league, but also have some experienced players in it that maybe have been at the higher levels. So then you're going to start to see an influx of older talent that can help teach some of the younger talent. and then you get a really healthy mix, kind of like what we saw with our NPSL team that was very successful for a number of years. So I think that they're onto something, and they could potentially proof of concept, and then it could be blown out above and below, and then brought to someone like USL2 really easily as a use case.
Yeah. I think so, right? And it would just involve some partnership, the likes of which we usually don't see between leagues.
Nope.
But I think you're right. Like, it's an intriguing model that might prove profitable for the UPSL if they want to sell their model to a league like the USL.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, it looks like we got
I think we got time for one more.
Time for one, maybe two more. So you got 2, 4, and 5.
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go on the even side of things. We'll go with 2.
2. Okay. The topic number 2 on my list here is an internal club fine system. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I've been involved in many of these, and typically it's run by the captain of the team that year. And what the captain does is creates a ledger and a little notebook that says, here are all of the fines that you're going to get for a number of things. Like, you get nutmegged in practice, it's $1. You get nutmegged in the game, it's $5. You leave your gear all over the locker room, it's $10. And then at the end of the season, the money that is collected is then either given to things like a charity, or you throw a huge ass party, or you get a gift for the coach. That's something that's of more of a higher dollar value, or, the captain keeps it. So what are your thoughts on an internal club fine system, Nate?
I think I don't know. I think I got 2 thoughts on this. First of all, I think I'm totally fine with it. First of all, I think it's important to demand accountability from your players, and in a era or in make it fun, but also make it fun, but in a system where you're not getting paid, right? Like, sometimes there's no real incentive, but also, you can make it fun. You get nutmegged, last one to practice, like all the kind of goofy stuff that you can add. That's phenomenal, right? Why not? I think it also helps to make it very clear who the players are that are not really buying in.
Yep.
Right. So very quickly, could you see the fine system mean that you're turning from identifying guys who did a couple dumb things and everyone can laugh about it, to like, this is a guy who's just not showing up,
or does not care about anyone but themselves. Exactly.
So I like it. And I think it's an interesting bellwether to a number, to that kind of a thing. How has Minneapolis City enjoyed it?
It kind of fell off a little bit once you start losing folks like, from a captain perspective, like Max Stegwart, who really buy into it. It kind of wanes a little bit.
Yep.
But in the early days when Trey, Benhart, Old Faithful, and Aaron Olson were club captains, I've been to that end of the year party, and it was well worth it. So
the money goes to a good cause.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think, Nate, we have so I'm all for it. I think it should be adopted everywhere, from professional level all the way down to maybe 18-year-olds. All right. So I think we have time for maybe one
Let's
more.
Do it. Let's do one more.
So number 4 or number 5?
5.
Okay. I'm glad you didn't pick number 4, and I'll tell you what that is. That is there an MLS club from top to bottom that's actually getting it right? And my answer was going to be Philadelphia Union, but anyways, we'll talk about that another day. Number 5 is penalty kick styles. So is there a style that you like, and is there a style that you don't like? Discuss.
I do. There is. I appreciate a PK that is quickly, decisively, and powerfully taken.
Oh, yes, man, after my own heart.
I think that there is a lot of guesswork that goes into figuring out where guys are going to go and what is their form and all the stutter stepping and all that BS. I think and that just is distracting from, can you just put the ball in the net? Like, I think you're more, as a player that's taking a penalty kick, you are probably more likely to mess it up, to miss kick, to hit
Ball.
to fall. I mean, embarrassingly, but I'm just saying, like, not get the right spin on it, or not put it in the right corner, right? If you've got this whole like 5-7 step process leading up to it, where you're going to turn around and dance. I'm going to give you 2 examples, John, of PKs that I've seen disastrously taken. And the first, of course, is the Jorginho PK that everyone remembers from the Euros, right? When he was playing for Italy, and Jorginho has a entirely too elaborate run-up routine, and he skies it. And I think that if you've got an elaborate run-up, you're more likely to be thinking about executing the run-up than you are executing the kick. Second one is, who were we playing? Twin Stars? Was it Twin Stars, where the guy on the Twin Stars gets a PK awarded to him, and he did some bullshit where he started facing his own goal, turned around and tried to take the kick, and of course he missed it because he wasn't looking at the damn net on the lead up. So again, I think that it's just like, to me, a penalty kick that is quickly, decisively, and powerfully taken will be far more successful than one where you're trying to dance your way up and outthink the keeper and rely on trickery.
I could not agree with you anymore. I, at one point, when I was in my formidable years as a youth soccer player, I had a coach from the former Yugoslavia. And as you can imagine, this guy was a very serious coach. And we got to the point where we started to get old enough where we were in tournaments where it had penalty kicks as a result decider. And so we started practicing them in practice. And he told me a couple things. One is, a penalty kick goes 2 ways. One, it's extremely hard to hit the target because of emotion, because you feel like it's a free goal. There's a lot that goes on mentally where you have to hit the target. So it's extremely hard. It's extremely hard to score because you have the mental side. Number 2, don't give any mind to what the goalkeeper is doing. Like, if the goalkeeper guesses right, if you take your penalty correctly, there's still a 50% chance, even if they do guess correctly, that they can't save your shot. Even if they guess the right direction, even if they get a hand on it, foot on it, whatever. If you put it where you want to put it every single time with pace and power and location, pretty much no goalie on the planet is going to stop it. So we then took it, the proof of concept here. He invited a older high school goalie to come out to our practice, and us as 10-year-olds had to take penalty kicks against a 16, 17-year-old goalie who was big, long, and been there before. And that was a litmus test on how you take a penalty kick, because that person now shrinks the goal. So you have to be that much more accurate, and you have to pick your spots. I agree with you that all the pageantry around stutter stepping and trying to guess where the goalie's going, it only adds to the stress factor of trying to figure out how to score and put the ball in the goddamn net. And it's extremely hard. I mean, if it was easy, then every person who had an opportunity within 12 to 15 yards of the goal would score every single time, defended or not defended. So you take all variables out of it, you pick your spot, and you never change it. Even if you're on a team like in the Premiership or higher level professional leagues that might be the club's penalty taker, you pick your spot and you challenge the goalie to go save it. That's my opinion.
I'm glad we are of one mind on this.
Yeah, I am. All right, well, that was great, Nate. Now, next time you're going to pick 5 topics.
Yeah, that's a fun segment. I like that. That was cool.
5 topics with John and Nate.
Gonna be a long time before we don't have much to talk about now that the season started.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm going to have to watch so much VO tape. Anyways, that'll do it for this week's show. Thank you to our wonderful show sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. Our friends at footballstadiumprints.com are always expanding their soccer-focused t-shirt designs, prints, and more. Don't forget to use the code CROWS10. That's CROWS10 for 10% off of everything you purchase. And remember, all orders ship from the United States, so no pesky international shipping charges. As a reminder, Minneapolis City is a 501c3, so you can feel good that your membership doubles as a charitable donation to the club that does good. Memberships for 2024 are on sale now. Make sure you cement your seat in the stands and get some sweet swag, all for the price that destroys other clubs' price of entry. Head on over to mplscitysc.com and get yours today. Remember, you can always find us on Twitter X at The People's Pitch, or you can even email us if you have any questions or topics, like Paul did, that you want covered, at mplscitysc.com. at mplscity@gmail.com. Wow, you think I would not screw that up after all these times? But anyways, of course, you can always connect with the club on Twitter X at mplscitysc. That is all for this week's show. I am John. That was Nate. We'll be back next week with a U19s versus Joy Athletic recap and previews of the next U21 and U19 futures actions, as well as a preview of the Minnesota Super Cup. A lot of stuff for us to do. And until then, soccer's here, and you got hooked.